Grace is often defined as unmerited favor, and while that's true, it's not complete. Scripture shows us that grace is more than pardon. Grace includes mercy, but it also supplies power. God's active ability given when human strength runs out. Hebrews 4:16 says, "Let us draw near to the throne of grace that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need." Notice the order. First, mercy. Mercy deals with guilt, failure, and forgiveness. Then grace, not just declared. Grace is something that we find, and we find it to help. The word help is a Greek word, boētheia. And the ancient word boētheia was used in shipping. It referred to straps placed underneath damaged or sinking ships, lifting them up toward the surface and holding them steady while repairs were being made. That changes how we see Hebrews 4:16. Grace is not just encouragement. It's not just reassurance. Grace is structural support from under a load. God does not promise there will be no storms. He promises that we won't sink. Grace is not always rescue from weakness. It is often sustaining lift within that weakness. Paul understood this deeply. He uses three connected words: charis, grace; charisma, grace made into ability; and chara, joy that flows from grace. Grace in Paul's letters is not passive. It's God's operative presence, empowered function. By grace we are saved. By grace we are transformed. By grace we endure. By grace we serve. Grace does not forgive inability. Grace supplies capacity. Paul says, "By grace of God, I am what I am. I worked harder, yet not I, but the grace of God within me." Grace doesn't cancel effort. Grace carries effort where effort alone would fail. And when Paul begged God to remove weakness, God said, "My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness." Grace does not always remove the weight. Grace bears the weight. This is why joy, kara, is possible even in suffering, not because pain disappears, but because grace is holding the soul above the floodline. So Scripture gives us this order. We receive mercy, guilt is forgiven. We find grace, strength is supplied. Mercy removes the barrier. Grace bears the weight. Here is where the biblical definition, grace is God's freely given sustaining presence and power, bearing what we cannot bear, holding us when we would otherwise collapse, and supplying the ability to endure, obey, be transformed, and even minister while restoration is still underway. Grace saves, grace strengthens, grace sustains, and grace empowers. That's why we are told not to try harder. We are told to draw near to the throne of grace, where He's always ready to hold us up. Get my books on Amazon, Fully Christ, Thorn in My Flesh, and Rewired by Joy for Joy by Dan Cross.